Hi, everybody. Welcome for joining us again with Wedding Team Collective. I'm Catherine. This is Judy Irving with the wonderful Wedding Vows Las Vegas. Welcome, Judy.
Thank you, Catherine. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I hope you're enjoying the day.
Yeah, absolutely. We're so excited to have you. We have been featuring some really spectacular vendors, and I feel like you are right up there with them. You make a ceremony such an amazing experience, a warm, welcoming one, and it makes people feel like they are the most important part of the day.
Well, they are.
Exactly. I agree. So wanted to first have you introduce yourself and a little bit about your background in officiant.
Okay. As Catherine said, I'm Judy, and I'm the owner, minister, and officiant at Wedding Vows Las Vegas. I started my company in 2005 after being ordained as a non-denominational minister in 1997. Now, that's not an online ordination. I actually studied for that thing and was mentored in my church for 3 years. Now, let me be clear, that doesn't mean that you have to have a religious ceremony at all. In fact, 95% of my ceremonies are not religious, because those who do want one usually have it in their own church and with their own minister. However, we can certainly add religious elements if you'd like, a prayer, a blessing, whatever. When I started Wedding Vows Las Vegas, I originally thought that weddings would be my part-time career after I retired from my executive coaching company, which I still haven't done. But I was a little surprised to find that weddings would outpace the coaching. And I'm okay with that, because I love weddings. I love everything about them. I love meeting you, hearing your stories, getting to know you, meeting your families, sharing your joy, oohing and aahing over the florals. I love it all. But I think my favorite part is when you look each other in the eye and you share from your heart. I love because that's what your wedding day should be.
Exactly. That's what we're all there for, right? Is so for the two of them who are madly in love. So one thing that we first, right, like you said, elephant in the room, we first have to address it. So that is ceremonies and COVID-19. You know, it's happening. Unfortunately, we can't bury our head in the sand. That would be my favorite thing to do. But it is part of our life. So there are two things that you're doing. So first, with the masks, it's being worn for anything that's interactive in the beginning, correct?
Correct. Yeah,
okay.
Correct. COVID has literally changed the face of weddings, as you know. Not that, and by the way, when I say elephant in the room, we need no offense to the real elephants in this world.
I love elephants, yes.
But wedding planning is so stressful in itself. And then when you add this pandemic on top of it, you know, we don't know what's going to happen with the virus, how many more waves there are going to be. We don't know how many people you'll be allowed to have at this particular point. We don't know if your family and your friends are going to be comfortable traveling or not. There's just so many things we don't know. You may have to change the day and time. Everything is a concern right now. But trust me, we're all working together. We're doing everything we can to make it as easy for you as possible. Yeah. And, you know, in some respects, it's been a logistical nightmare.
True. And I love the honesty. I think we have to be real about what's happening.
We do, because, you know, there's a lot of different things that you have to address and things that you have to think. But I grew up in a family where we were taught kindness and respect, and that you show up, you do what you say you're going to do, you deliver value for dollar. And that's what all of us are trying to do for you. We all want to make it work, because this is your wedding day after all. So my promise to you, or our promise to you, is that we will do what we say we will do. And that includes, for me, that I will get those marriage documents filed properly so you are 100% legal. I am even anal about this part of it.
I think it's it's one of the most important parts, because we did all of this. It doesn't mean anything.
I just keep talking about that marriage license the whole time. So getting back to the mask, I do wear a mask when I arrive, whether it's to meet with you or if it's the day of the wedding, because I want to be able to greet people and be friendly with people and not stand 10 feet away. But then when I'm ready, also to file the paperwork and get it witnessed and so forth.
Yeah.
But when I'm ready to walk down the aisle, I take the mask off, because I don't want you to be reminded of COVID every time you look at your wedding photographs.
Yeah, no, I mean, we all knew it was there. I don't think we want to have one on the wall, which maybe down the way you can take one with them. But for your ceremony, also want to be clear, as those words that you're speaking, it's important that your guests hear them, that they hear the things that you've taken the time to build this ceremony with you. So we want to make sure that your guests can actually hear that. So we wanted to quickly show you a video to introduce Judys Style and get a better idea of how her ceremonies begin. So we're going to play this little clip for you guys.
Although this is traditional bride and groom's day, it is also a tribute to each of you that is present. Because knowing you, loving you, and interacting with you has helped to make care of who they are today. They stand before you to commit themselves to each other, but also to sharing this most special day with them. And welcome. Tay and Kara, every experience you've ever had. Oh, what is happening? Learned. Everything you've ever learned has brought you to this moment in time. As you stand here before these witnesses, to take each other as husband and wife.
I love that. So Judy's such a warm and welcoming presence. I think it's a little bit of your Southern hospitality, just the welcoming style that we want that to come off in an actual ceremony, because everyone is coming together. It's a way to say thank you for joining us and being a part of our love story. So that's just a wonderful kind of option to be able to have you kind of see her little bit of style, but her website does have quite a few other options to look at as well. So we wanted to kind of just take you through the process of working with Judy. So the first is obviously weddingvowslasvegas.com. They can visit there. You'll find a lot of information in addition to what we're talking about today. But also you can contact her directly, and it allows you to kind of put your information in there, let her know about dates and times. And I think that is the number one thing to talk about, is the fact that date and time specifically is really important, because as an officiant, you can have a couple weddings in a day. You don't ever triple overbook yourself so that you're running late. But the idea is that you might have a morning wedding and an afternoon wedding, but time is really sensitive. So I think that's really important. So what are some of the things you're seeing with timing and changing and currently?
Well, because the officiant is only at your ceremony for really a brief amount of time, anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes, then plus visiting time and so forth. We can book more than one wedding in a day, pardon me, which we often do, especially during what we call the busy months. So let me back up. So the first step then would be reaching out with me. If you like what you see and hear on the website, reach out to me to see if the day and time are available. And if so, then we would set up a time to talk by phone, because I want to get to know you. I want you to get to know me, so that by the time we are at the wedding, we are good friends. So I will ask you lots of questions during this process. Questions like, how do you want your ceremony to go? And you may know or you may not know, and that's okay too, because during this process, as I'm asking you questions, it starts you thinking. And there's a lot of people say to me, well, I've only been to one wedding before, so I really don't know what I'm doing here. And that's okay. It really is. I mean, I would rather, well, I won't say that. I started to say, I would rather this be your first wedding and only wedding than your seventh or eighth, which I've had some of those too. But anyway, we also talk about the marriage license. Again, I bring that up, and how to get it, how to apply, where to go to pick it up, what the parameters are. I want you to be very, very comfortable with this process. And then if you feel comfortable with me and you want to move forward, I'll send you a contract.
Which is fabulous, because then it's a digital process. It makes it nice and easy. And on that, when you send that out, you're going to include additional information about that marriage license and other little things to get set up to get ready for your ceremony and how to build that.
Yeah, I actually I put in everything our contract we agreed to, and I put in a link for you to actually apply for the marriage license online. And then it's $100 deposit. And once I get that back from you, the deposit and the signed contract, the day and time are yours.
Which is awesome, because really when you have a specific date in mind, and I think a lot of people, it's a last minute thinking of an officiant, but I feel like it's such a close relationship. She's up there at the same place you are when you're getting married. So making sure that date and time and that you've got that locked in, I think is really important, along with the other things that we say, book a year in advance. I still think it's something to think about because times and dates are changing, and you want to make sure that Judy's available for you when you're booking. And then in regards to pricing, there's a range, but currently for 2020, what are some of the pricing ranges for you?
It's running at $250 to $400. And let me just say that the officiant is the least expensive part of your wedding.
Oh my goodness, for sure. Absolutely.
And that range goes from filing of paperwork all the way to a custom wedding, which is really what we're discussing today. Yeah. And back on the time, also, if your photographer were to change your time or your wedding planner were to change your time, just be sure that you run that by the officiant, because we want to all make sure that we're on the same page.
Yeah, nothing is worse than starting a wedding without the officiant. So making sure that timing is there and that everybody is on the same page, which is a key part of a planner, is working with them and making sure that everybody's timing matches up with that. So.
And let me say one more thing.
Sure.
You know, there are lots of officiants out there, but you want to work with someone who is licensed and someone who you feel comfortable with, yet has the experience that you need, because you don't want to have to be worrying about rolling with the punches that day. You want the officiant to be able to roll with the punches. And you want somebody that's going to showcase your love. You don't want somebody that's going to put the focus on themselves.
Agreed. So as you're building your ceremony, so that you've chosen Judy and she is working with you to make sure it's right, she's going to send you a questionnaire and some planning tools to help you get started, because like she said, you know, you might not know what's included in a wedding, which is completely understandable, because unlike us who've been doing weddings for many, many years, sometimes it's the first experience or a second, you had no idea how it went into it. So she is a huge part of that. And part of the planning process is talking about rituals and vows. So what are some of the rituals that you offer, which the full list, by the way, is of course on her website, but here are some of the other options that we have.
Yeah, there are lots of options for all the segments of the ceremony, you know, from the beginning, the opening, which you just heard one example of an opening, but there's also different readings. And if you wanted a close family member to be able to do a reading in your wedding, that is perfectly fine. There's also verbiage for the ring exchange. And as Catherine is talking, the rituals. Now, some couples have a particular cultural interest for their ritual, some of them just because they're interesting. The couple that you're seeing here on the PowerPoint is doing a wine ceremony, which also includes the love letters within that. So they choose a favorite bottle of wine. They write love letters to each other, either the day of or the day before their wedding. We enclose all that in the box. As you can see, the bride is nailing it down. They're going to put that in a prominent place in their home. And on their 5th wedding anniversary, they're going to open the box, savor the wine, read the love letters, be reminded of that commitment on their wedding day. And then they're going to replace the wine, write new letters, put it back together, tap it on, and save it for the next 5 years. It's almost like having a renewal ceremony on your own.
Absolutely.
Then there's things like the unity candle, which many brides want. You light 2 tapers, which represents each of the couple, their individual experiences, their personalities, their families, friends, whatever, and then they light the larger candle representing the starting of a new family unit. And then on every anniversary, you can relight that unity candle. It's a little tricky if you're going to have an outdoor ceremony, but we could talk about what to do with that.
Yeah, there are options. You don't have to write off unity candle, but there are just things to make note of when it comes to the breezy, beautiful weather that we have here in Las Vegas. And then want to touch on vows, because obviously traditional vows are always something that have stuck with time, and things that you kind of are probably familiar with. And then there's writing your own, and then there's the combination of both. So what are some of the things you see with vows?
I absolutely love it when you write your own vows and you speak from your heart. And if you don't, you're thinking, oh my God, I wouldn't even know where to start. Well, in the planning tools, there is enough verbiage that it will give you some ideas of how to say what you want to say. And you really talk about what you love about the other person and what you're committing to and your hope for the future is, and so forth. And now, having said that, if writing your own vows or speaking in front of people makes your heart skip a beat, you can do what I call the traditional repeat after me. I give you 3 or 4 words at the time, and you repeat those back looking at your husband or wife to be. And it's still meaningful. It's still lovely. I call my ceremonies intimate and romantic, but yet we can also add in lightness. Before we leave the vows, though, Catherine, they make these beautiful vow books these days that you can write your own vows in, and then you can read them. It's much better than reading them off your phone, by the way. So where can they get those vow books?
So there's a couple different options with a vow book, and it's much better, than that crinkled piece of paper or that hotel stationery that I always happen to see in a couple photos. A vow book can be found in a couple different places, but one place we're finding that's really spectacular is Etsy. And the reason being is, one, you're supporting has stationery that you've done. Sometimes your stationery will also be able to do that for you. So you might have gotten a custom monogram done, and they can actually print those on there. So if you're working with an invitation stationery company, you could do that. And then Etsy as well is a fabulous option for vows.
The vow books will be something that you will cherish forever. So, I mean, I highly recommend that, but doesn't have to happen.
Absolutely.
So I want to bring up a little an option that I like to include, and that is adding a little lightness to your ceremony.
Yeah.
The people that are present know you very well, but there may be some things about you that they don't know, or that they maybe haven't thought about in a long time. And I call these my stories. And so if you share some of those with me, I can include them in the script. And, humor is a wonderful thing. And it also helps the couple to relax as well, because you may be a little nervous up there.
Exactly.
So let me give you a couple of examples. This may be something that, one bride told me, for example, that her groom at his age of 30-something still loved to play with Legos.
There you go.
And she tolerated it because it brought him so much joy. So when I mentioned that at the ceremony, all his friends in the audience laughed because they teased him about it too.
Hey, everybody has their thing, right?
And then there's lots of stories about proposals. I cannot tell you how many times I've heard of the terrors of trying to get an engagement ring through TSA checkpoints without being discovered and maintaining the surprise. Mm-hmm. And recently I had a couple who told me about their proposal. They had just been out to a nice dinner and a heavier meal than usual. And when the groom dropped down on one knee to ask her to marry him, she thought he was having a stomach cramp.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, my goodness.
So, there are so many stories that will bring humor as to your wedding ceremony. So now, if secrets are not your thing, or you don't want people to laugh with you, then by all means, we'll leave them out because I want it to be your day and your way.
Yeah, I love that. And that is where things are shifting, as we've all been talking about with weddings. So obviously the bigger ceremonies, we love those, and it's important to match what you want. But elopements are happening as people are waiting to be able to celebrate later with larger groups. So Judy's been doing elopements for years. And some of the wonderful things about that is you can choose anywhere for an elopement, out in the desert, other places. So what are some of the features of an elopement?
Well, what we've been talking about so far is more or less the customized wedding. If you want an elopement, which we love elopements, we can do them, lots of different places, indoors, and not so many indoor places for elopements, but outdoors. But I have a short ceremony, 10 to 12 minutes, that are my favorites that I use for elopements. And then I can also give you the opportunity to still speak from your hearts if that's something that you want to do. And if it's just the two of you, the photographer can be your witness, or I can bring a witness.
Perfect. And then the question is, already married. So some people are getting married right away just for whatever reason they need to. And then now they're actually having a ceremony or having an elopement. What is some of the parts of already married, and how does that come into play?
Well, when the pandemic hit, some couples wanted to go ahead and get married on their original wedding date. So we did that with just them, myself, and a witness. But then they wanted to plan the bigger wedding later in the year or early next year when so many of these unanswered questions were answered. Then there are also the military. A lot of times military will get married for legal reasons or deployment reasons, and then they will want to wait and have a larger wedding later. A couple of things we can do. One, if maybe just your family knows you're already married, or maybe nobody knows you're already married. Anyway, we can treat it just like a first wedding. Yep. We don't have to treat it like a vow renewal for sure. But if it was COVID related, and then we can say, blank and blank were married on their original wedding day, but it was just the two of them. Today is what they are considering to be their official wedding date, because all of you are here to share in their love.
Which is so special. And that's what's so important about a ceremony is it's about the guests that are witnessing it as well, or it's about, if you've already married and you're doing that, or even with an elopement, it's really, you might have just quickly gotten married and it's, real done at the courthouse, and that's okay. But then having that extra special ceremony makes it such a memorable experience. As we are clicking down the time, we did want to mention officiant of record. It always comes up. Someone asks, well, my uncle, I love him. He's been a part of my life for so long, and I want him to be the officiant, but I don't want him to just quickly do something online. What can I do to have him be a special part of the wedding? So what are some of the options of that, or what are maybe some of the pros and cons?
It is. I call it a sign-in file. Let's say you have an uncle or a grandfather who is a minister or who has officiated other legal ceremonies, but is not licensed in Clark County, because it's a little bit tricky here. If that's the case with you, then I'm willing to act as the officiant of record and to file the paperwork. But by law, I do have to show up either at the wedding or the reception and pronounce you husband and wife. If you're already married, then I have to have a copy of your marriage license just for my records to protect myself. Now, I don't recommend that you have a family member or a friend officiate for you. It's not about me. I think family and friends should be able to enjoy your wedding, not work your wedding. Okay. But if it's important to you, we can do it. Just be sure that it's someone that can roll with the punches.
Yeah. And to me personally, I love, this ceremony is really about the two of you. So when there is someone else there, it is sort of shining a little bit of a light on that person. And of course they're important to you, but maybe that would be a person to have a reading or a little special moment, or give them time at the reception to give a toast. to the group as well.
Or that person could also act as your witness on your marriage license.
Exactly.
That's a part of your paperwork forever.
Exactly. That's always important. So last little things before we are wrapping up for rescheduling. We had touched on it. Judy, you can absolutely reschedule as long as it's available in your
Absolutely.
timing.
If you have to change your day and your time, if I'm available, we just move it over on the calendar. No problem at all. Now, if you call the wedding off, and it does happen occasionally, within 60 days of the wedding date, you lose your $100 simply because of the time I put in, and I may have turned down another wedding for that same day and time. If it's COVID related, I work with you. There's no problem. I've been asked the question, what if something happens to me, a family emergency, sickness, or whatever? I find an officiant that I know and I trust. I give them all the information that you and I have been working on together. So there's no starting over for you, and I just transfer your deposit over to them.
Perfect. So we had a couple questions that were submitted, but as we're running down on time, we will answer those and place those on the website for you guys to view. But again, thank you so much, Judy. We really appreciate you coming to join us on the Wedding Team Collective. And again, visit her website, which is weddingvowslasvegas.com, and you'll have lots of information. And then you can reach out to Judy to get that perfect
Absolutely.
date. Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys. Have a wonderful day.